All right. We're continuing with our next guest at Layer One season. This is Hisham Ali, and I'm about to take off on a commercial airline with this gentleman. So I'm gonna read you a little bit about his background because his background is unusual for Web3, which is mostly degeneracy. But that's not the case here. So um, it, when let me just he sent me his whole CV here, so so this is great. The pieces I want to highlight is that he has a Bachelor of Science in Operations Research from the United States Air Force Academy, which is unusual for Web3. And then he in 2017 he got a Master of Science in Military Operations at the United States Air Force. He's a 22-year lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force, currently serving in the reserve as a C-17 instructor. A C-17, for those who don't know, is a very large aircraft, and I'll share a picture later. Also, I wanted to highlight he 17 years as a commercial airline pilot, currently serving as an A320 series captain for a major U.S. airline, and then a bunch of you worked as a captain on a bunch of acronyms that B747, B737, B717, and BD700. And then in your Web3 experience, coming into your degenerate CV, um, you were a co-founder at OtterSync Validator, and you were active in various DAOs. And then you were also co-founder at Elys. Yeah, happy to chat with you here, sir, and learn about your any experiences you'd like to share. Totally down to hear them. I'm sure that everyone in the community would as well. But welcome, sir.
Thank you, Nathan. Far too kind. That was very, very, you're very flattering, and I really appreciate that intro. Obviously, an absolute pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be on the show.
Cheers.
You know, yeah, I'm in great company here, and this is really exciting to be able to do L1 season with you. And much respect to the team at Landslide for putting this together because I know that it's a lot of work getting all these teams together, getting everybody at the same time from all around the world, right? I know
Yeah,
you guys are like halfway around the world from where I'm at,
yeah,
awake for basically 24 hours to make this happen. So it means a lot to me that you guys set this up, and we're
sure.
excited to have the Ellis Network community here. So we're rebroadcasting this on the Ellis channels as well. So it'll be on Ellis Twitter and Ellis IG. So excited to be here.
Great.
And this is kind of opposite from when we normally do our shows. So like we normally do ours a little bit earlier, like US time, like in the morning, based on like where we're usually available. So it's nice to have to be able to touch an audience that is available now. So it's because I know like we don't forget about them, but it's just a little bit harder for us logistically to make it happen. So this is exciting. With all that said, one of the reasons we're excited to be on with you is that we have a very strong partnership with Landslide Network, and we are very excited about connecting multiple chains, right? Ellis Network. So before we get into like what Ellis is all about, like it's really important that this is the next evolution of where we're going in the Web3 space is working together instead of in silos allows us to build and leverage kind of like each team's strong suit, their skill sets, what they're working on, integrating it in each other's projects. So we're not duplicating effort, and then we're not creating, this landscape where a million different projects are working on the same thing, and then they have to compete with each other for either investor money or for like users to actually come and use the products. So this is actually really disciplined and really important in terms of how we create a landscape for the next leg of Web3.
Amen. For those who don't know, because where you guys have a much larger footprint than us, um, the landslide did the brain damage to connect Cosmos to Avalanche. So we spent the last 2 years basically building the Cosmos SDK for Avalanche. So we just replaced Tendermint Comet BFT as a consensus algorithm and replaced it with Avalanche. And we're open source. We open sourced our Slide SDK last week, and we're going to open source our Avalanche IBC Lite client next week. So everything's going into the public, and we're gonna take this C-17 to the sky.
Let's do it. Ready for takeoff. So yeah, so this is actually such a key piece of our roadmap. To be able to have a major chain like Avalanche connected to Elys network, and we leverage two major technologies as far as how we actually plan to really scale. So wallet abstraction, for example, our first technology that we kind of make it very very simple for a user to join, is such an important part for the masses, right? Like the early adopters of crypto, they're able to create their wallet, store the seed phrase. Got best practices on how they do that. But it's still a bit of a hassle if you're trying to talk about, like, if you're thinking about like moving from one device to another. You're accessing from mobile, you're accessing from your laptop, a different device, etc. It's not exactly the safest or smartest thing to be moving your keys around every time you're accessing from a different device. So wallet abstraction just allows a user a different option to be like, you know what, I'm just going to log in with my social, and I'll maybe use this as a temporary trading wallet or a hot wallet where I can jump from device to device, not have to worry about exposing my keys or transferring them one way or another. And then if I really needed to, and I'm like maybe maturing to like a much like maybe a hardware secured wallet like a Ledger or a Trezor, then maybe I send the funds over there after I'm done trading or something like that. So this is a really important part of the evolution, because the average user who's on the sidelines, maybe still sitting on centralized exchanges, or just sitting on like traditional finance type applications, isn't coming over because they're looking at the hassle of creating a wallet, and they're just like, I'm not touching that. That's just too hard for me, and I just don't want to do it. And I don't blame them. Right? I don't blame them. I mean, a lot of us have stories about how difficult it was the first time around. Maybe some of us have some funds stranded on some wallet that we didn't know where we stored the keys, right? Something like that, right?
Dude, that's
Everybody's got their story.
definitely what happened to Satoshi, by the way. He is dead, dead, dead. That guy, that is how crypto started. That's how it started. Didn't
Right,
back up his keys.
right. But it's so hard, but it's hard for a reason, right? They tried to really put security at the forefront, and it makes sense if you are really technical and really into those things. But you can't expect a billion people to come in behind you and do the same thing, because they're just, we live in a world of things need to be fast, productive, efficient. User experience is such a big deal. So we have to make some portion of this industry accessible in a way that they can understand. And it's not an insult to intelligence. It's not an insult to capability. It's more about making it something that they want to use, right? Nobody is saying like the iPhone was dumbed down for people so that they could use it. The iPhone was just made very simple and so that people could be more productive, right? It has nothing to do with anyone's intelligence.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
kind of the
So,
same.
but this is coming from you who you like drive a plane with like a billion like moving pieces on it, right? When you're in the cockpit, there's like a billion different things that you can touch to like completely destroy your life or land a plane, right?
That's that's true. Well, but I think that's kind of probably why I look at things the way that I do. Is anybody can do anything. Anybody can master, the world of Web3 if they really want to get deep into it. They can take their seed phrase and divide it up into 24 different places and store it in 24 different bank vaults, and they could be the best at what they do, right? That's certainly possible of any experience level, any skill level, right? But the issue is going to be, is it practical? Does it make sense for somebody for us to expect somebody to come in with thousands of dollars or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, whatever it's going to be, that they're going to come in the DeFi world, or to come into Avalanche and participate in gaming and metaverse and DeFi and whatever else they're going to do? Is it realistic that we're going to expect hundreds of millions of people to be doing these things? The answer is no, right? So we want to find a perfect, like, threading the needle of making it easy enough for them to come to the space and productive, but also something they get super super excited about, that they want to tell their friends about it and their family, and then everybody comes in. So I think about this from the perspective of, in the beginning, I sort of was, kind of like, it's a rite of passage to come into the crypto world and have to learn all the hard stuff. You
And get
got to do it.
abused.
Yeah, you got to get abused. You got to get hacked a couple times. You got to do something dumb with your wallet. And then you create a new wallet and you figure it all out, right? That's everybody has to go through that. And then I realized when I was explaining this to my friends and explaining this to family members that wow, this is a really bad like trying to explain this to my I can't like this is really bad, right? So I was like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way for me to explain this to my brother and sister, for my friends at work, or for coworkers, etc. And
But
so
have
I
you
realized
onboarded them yet? Like, have you red pilled them yet? I've been red pilling my friends for 10 years. They still won't come in.
well, that is the problem. I think I've convinced a few people to create a wallet, but they're not coming in with real money, right? They're coming in just playing around, being like, okay, this is all right, but I don't want to, it's just too hard. I got too many things on my brain, right? Like I want the one click option. I want to just be able to log in and just do my
I
thing
know.
and log off. And so this is how Ellis Network was born, right? We basically said, okay, we have a very capable landscape. The Web3 landscape is incredible, right? We can build anything here, right? We have talented developers. We have chains that can process, hundreds of thousands of transactions per second. We have great security. We have great decentralization. We have transparency. We have trust. But where are the users and why aren't they coming? Well, we don't have user experience and we don't have a seamless ability to move from chain to chain. So those are the problems we tackled at Ellis Network. And I think you guys are obviously tackling the same problem, in terms of connecting chains together. And this is really where we're going to go into the next stage of, Web3, which is, okay, we started to build the infrastructure, right? The infrastructure was kind of the foundation was laid. And now how do we get people to actually utilize that infrastructure?
So
That was missing for the last couple of years.
So do you want to know my dark secret on this? My rabbit hole? I don't think we're ever going to onboard a billion users. I think we're going to onboard
Oh,
a billion AI first. I think we'll have
okay.
and I think that meme coins are the way to onboard a billion users.
Very interesting. Okay, and I like that. Honestly, I mean, the methods on how we do it can certainly vary. It just depends on like kind of what demographic we're targeting. I did hear something very interesting. So we did the Web3 Convergence Summit at Token 2049, and we had like Franklin Templeton was there and Van Eck, who were like big pioneers in the crypto industry, right?
And
A
they're
lot of
on
institutional money.
Avalanche. Franklin Templeton has a $430 million fund that's trading on an Avalanche layer 1.
And I love it, right? I mean, the big
Rock and
guys are
roll.
there, right? They're here with their institutional money. They have institutional clients who are, I was looking at the Van Eck crypto fund, which, not to talk, too much into the investment side of things, but Van Eck, if you want to participate in their actual like emerging like crypto fund, it's like $1 million buy-in, right? So
Yeah,
they
totally.
only cater to high value clients,
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
all the things that kind of you hear in the media about how like, oh, people with a lot of money won't touch this stuff. Oh no, they'll touch it, right? They
Yeah.
are definitely invested, right? A lot of people with a lot of money are invested in crypto, but they're doing it smartly, right? They're putting their money in the hands of somebody like a Van Eck who is going and investing in like 25 to 50 crypto startups. And that kind of gives them a little bit of diversification, but also what it does is it represents a very, very small part of their overall wealth, right? So they may be coming in with $1 million buy-in, but some of these people are worth several hundred millions of dollars. So
Yeah.
it's a call option on, hey, is Web3 going to take off? So yeah, so to your point, do they care if the first billion users are AI, agents, or if they're people? What they really care is, hey, does this actually generate revenue, and does this actually increase valuation? So I get there from that perspective, and I don't want to digress too far from away from the
Yeah, yeah,
product,
yeah.
but it does matter that like what your perspective is on how you think that adoption is coming. I do think that one of the big things that I took away from that conference was these institutional clients actually said, institutional like representatives actually said they think that all of finance will eventually move to a decentralized platform, right? All of it. So the entire banking industry one day will
Yeah,
be decentralized. And it makes
obviously.
perfect sense. It makes perfect sense, right? And the reason being is there's too much pressure from the customer base to demand more transparency, right?
That's
Eventually,
because
people will just start.
that's because their older
Yeah,
customer base is dying off. And
exactly,
everyone our age is like, "Dude, where's your crypto sector?" And
100%. And that makes a lot of sense to me because people want transparency, they want trust, and they don't care that it's more expensive for a financial institution to move their platform to something more decentralized, right? That's not their problem. The
so
problem is Yeah.
So what is Ellis going to do about KYC and how to get institutions trading um, through Ellis? Maybe you can give me some alpha if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one of the things we thought about in our roadmap for a long time, right? Like initially, like we have a very, very involved go-to-market strategy, which includes, okay, we want to absolutely cater to the existing Web3 users because they've been here, they're the OGs. So we wanted to make sure the products were advanced enough and cater to their knowledge level. So those are built into the Ellis product, and we can kind of showcase that when we go through the app. But we also recognize that major asymmetry. I think you and I talked about this before, where you have 300 million centralized exchange users, you have somewhere between 8 and 10 million, call it DeFi users. So why does that asymmetry exist? Exactly for the reasons we talked about. It's just too hard for those people to make that jump across into the DeFi space. But then there's the next leg after that, right? Which is the people who have not even thought about crypto. They haven't even thought about it being a part of their portfolio. And those would be your TradFi users, right? Traditional finance. So they're going to come in, and whether they be retail or institutional, right? And they're going to come in and discover it, and they're going to figure out, okay, what's the best way for me to get into the space? How do I get my funds in? And then what do I do with it? So where we think the institutional side is really actually going to lead here is they're going to see the opportunities to create something like index products, for example. So they're going to be able to go in the same way that Van Eck comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to build you a portfolio of 25 companies, and here's your buy-in, and we're going to create this fund for you," and that'll exist in various places. And then you're also going to see like major index products similar to like the Nasdaq 100 or the S&P 500. So you'll have Fidelity, Vanguard, you name it, right? iShares. They're going to come out and create this 100 crypto index or 200 or 500, whatever it's going to be, and it'll be very studied. There's going to be a lot of analysts looking at the fundamental side of things. How does this company generate, or how does this blockchain generate revenue? What is their price to earnings or price to sales?
Oh no,
What's their
no, no!
user
This is
base, monthly
terrible.
active users? No, but this is what those guys specialize in. They don't
But there's but
specialize
there's
in, hey,
but there's no fundamentals. They're not gonna they're gonna dig in the earth and find there's no fundamentals. The price to earnings ratio for Ripple is like 65,000. Like the price to earnings ratio for Nvidia is like 32. They're not gonna find like economics. They're gonna find dopeonomics. They're gonna dig in
yeah,
and they're gonna find craziness.
yeah, and that's why you have tens of thousands of cryptos that exist today that won't exist tomorrow, right? Because they can't justify on a fundamental basis, and that's true. They will run out of funding and they won't exist.
I
So
don't think
that's
there's
where,
any
yeah.
fundamental I don't think there's I think the fundamentals are out the window.
Well, I mean, like for example, you can fundamentally analyze Ethereum today, right? I think what USDC, you can actually look at USDC, how much is USDC is sitting on Ethereum. It's something like 23 billion, right? In USDC, I believe. And if you look at the USDT number, it's significantly higher, I believe. So you have the ability to actually look at the funds on chain, transaction activity, how much revenue is being generated by those transactions. And you can actually go to like a website like DeFi Llama, right? And you can actually see the daily revenue that's generated. So you could take that, come up with your annual numbers or your quarterly numbers, and then figure out, okay, the market cap of Ethereum. Okay, what is my price to revenue on that, or price to or whatever you want to call it, right? Because you don't say earnings because it's not really earnings. And then you can actually set an expectation on it. You can watch the growth rate. So yes, something might have something of price to earnings of negative or price to earning of many thousands, but eventually you only need a small jump in users to actually make that turn into price to earnings of 100, let's say, right? And that's how a lot of these growth companies kind of in the equity world work, right? They look terrible in the beginning, but once they get a little bit of growth, it starts to look explosive, right? It starts to look exponential. And when you start to see these index products come in and really like start to weed out the losers and bring the winners into a certain like category of, let's say, 50, 100, 200, whatever it is, now you can actually start to concentrate that effort, and a lot of users will start to focus their investment in those areas. So how does that tie into Ellis Network? Well, we're very aware of this, right? We're building with a focus on revenue generation, and that revenue generation is all about reward shares to the people who are invested in the token. So if we can show those numbers, we will get institutional investment very, very quickly, right? So we're talking about the various methods that we generate revenue, whether it be not just the gas fees, which are very minimal, but it'd be more like the swap fees, the perpetual trading fees, the margin interest fees, the bridging fees, liquid staking, all of the things that come together. We aggregate those and pay it out to our user base in USDC. And then we also have some token inflation from our own chain for up until we inflate to our max of 200 million. Those
So,
things are designed to not just get the retail attention, but also the institutional attention.
sorry, there was a couple interesting points. I just wanted to respond to
Mhm.
one piece. So
Absolutely.
this is a Forbes piece, which, and for those who are just listening, this says in Wall Street, last year, Ripple's XRP ledger earned a mere $583,000 in fees processing the transactions across its network. In Wall Street, that would give XRP a price to sales ratio of 61,689. Nvidia, the world's hottest stock with a market cap of above 2 trillion and revenue of 61 billion, has a price to sales ratio of 37. I'm just saying this. This article is called "The Rise of Crypto's Billion-Dollar Zombies." I'm just saying this as like a counterpoint to, yeah, there is some like fundamentals, but if you dig in, like there are less fundamentals than you would think.
That's exact. You're making a great point that we are in such an early stage in crypto that nobody really, aside from Ethereum,
But
has
that's
proven
good.
themselves.
I'm here to say that's
Yeah,
good. That's a good
yeah,
thing. We don't want like 32. We want moon. We right. We're not shooting for 40. We're shooting for the moon or Jupiter or Pluto. Like we're trying to go very far. We're more in the unhinged sector because that's the nature. And like, the reason that the price to earnings ratios are like that is because they're fixed. Like that's the whole thing about it, is that it's fixed, right?
yeah. I mean, we have a lot of it has to do with the maturity of a company, right? Where they are, what phase they're in. If they're in their pre-revenue stage, right, their expectations are a little bit different. The market's willing to assign a slightly higher, ratio in exchange for that risk reward, right? They're gonna put more risk on it, but a much higher reward because the expectation is okay, they can grow significantly higher because they're a tiny market cap, right? Something like Ripple is a little bit
But
different.
they're only a small market cap because like people can't buy it, right? You can't buy Nvidia like early pre-round, right? Like the pre-seed sale of Nvidia, like no one had access to that, right? So
Yeah,
like
that's a very good point.
it's not a democratic market.
That's a very good point. Although
Anyway, I don't
for a
want
very
to.
long time, it was a low market cap company. When they were just selling
True,
graphics cards, right? And so everybody
true,
had a chance to get in, and it's just a matter of what
true.
you're,
I want
expressing your view on it. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to give you the opportunity to show us and demo, and so if you want to do that.
Oh yeah, where were we here? Okay, no, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
want, I
so
want, I want you. I don't want to
okay,
go into the rabbit hole.
okay, all right. I would love to
We
showcase the Elys web app because one of the things that we do on our whenever we do live streams like this is we go deep into these conversations. These are super fun, and we could like go for hours on this. But I think like some of our community who hasn't had a chance to actually play with our app, they may want to just get a quick touch on this. I know a lot of our users already engage in the app because they're in the incentivized testnet phase. We're in phase 2 right now, which is the final phase before we launch mainnet. Um, so I will go fast just because I think a lot of our users have seen this. But for your users who haven't, I think they might find some of this stuff pretty intriguing. So with that said, here we are. This is just a sign-in page for Elys Network. You can go to testnet.elys.network if you want to follow along. So if you are an existing Web3 user and you're in the DeFi space, you're familiar with these wallets, you can just go here and connect with your wallet and you're in, right? For the sake of this demo, I will actually use my Google account. So I'm going to select this Google. This is what we talked about when we were referring to wallet abstraction. When I click on that Google button, it's going to take me to my Google SSO, single sign-on page. I can set up MFA if I want, but it's going through that process and then it logs me in. So you can see it just only took a couple seconds, and here it takes me to the dashboard. Now, what we put a lot of effort into here is not just the quick onboarding, which you can see if I never had an account with Elys, I can quickly be on in like 2 to 3 seconds, because this is literally what it looks like the first time you ever connect an account or create an account. And when I go to my wallet here, you can actually see an Elys wallet address has been created for me, even though I'm logged in with my Gmail, right? So this is really cool. So this is kind of the idea here. We use our partners at Web3 Auth to secure your keys. So, and then if you ever wanted to grab your keys and put them in your own wallet, if you wanted to like put them in MetaMask or Kepler, you'd be able to click reveal private key here. I'm not going to do that for a global audience because I would like to hold on to my private keys. So, okay, so with that said, here's the transfer button. So once you're logged in, the other thing that you need to do is be able to get your assets on very quickly so you can get to work, right? So the deposit and withdraw crypto buttons are really great. This is where Landslide Network will live. So among other places, there's going to be more. But for example, we'll be able to go in here and then select Avalanche or any of the Avalanche tokens that Landslide connects, and then we'll be able to one-click them in. Since that's not enabled yet in our testnet, I'll just demonstrate a USDC transfer. So for example, let's say here's 50,000 USDC. Again, these are just testnet tokens, so these are not worth anything. But let's say I want to transfer 25,000 in from my USD, from my Noble wallet. I one click it in and it's on its way in. So this is really what's happening on our testnet chain right now, so all of you can participate in this. If you are new to this and following along, you can go into our faucet and be able to grab some tokens for yourself. So the other part is if you're like, let's say coming in from a bank account or want to use a credit card to just come in with just fiat, and just come and get yourself in for the first time. This is where those will live right here is buy crypto and sell crypto. So you'll have third parties like Cato, MoonPay, OnRamper, and those will have KYC services included in them. So obviously we want to make sure that we're compliant in every geographic location that we're offered. So those will live right here. And you'll be able to, again, get your funds in very, very quickly at a very great rate. And then you'll be up and running. So once your assets are on the platform on Elys chain, they'll be listed right here on this liquid assets on our dashboard. And so very easy for you to keep track of. Now here on the dashboard page, you can see we lay it out very, very cleanly for you to basically have a good grasp of what your portfolio looks like. So you have a good portfolio view here with the breakdowns. You have a rewards accrual tab here, so you can see if you're participating in liquidity provision or staking, all your rewards are displayed here. We pay rewards in system revenue share in USDC, and then we also pay in our secondary tokens, Eden and Eden Boost from staking, which can be redeemed for Elys over 90-day vesting. So the great thing about this reward system is I can collect them all with one click. I hit the claim rewards button, boom, I get all the rewards in my wallet. And then if I want to cash in those Eden or Eden Boost or the Eden tokens, then I can actually go to the vesting and then cash them in over a 90-day period. The other thing that we've done here is we've added a loyalty program. So everyone will start off as some sort of a basic member, but you can see the tiers go all the way up to platinum. And what's really great about this tiered system is it gives us a lot of optionality on what we want to do to reward our users. So initially, we're going to offer swap fee discounts, but as we start to enable more and more features in our platform, we'll have things like AI, asset management, pro trading tools, etc. And some of those things might be a subscription service, but if you are in these tiers, you will get access to those for free. So these will be dependent upon, like, let's say how much Elys you have staked or how much funds you have on the platform. So we want to encourage users for long-term participation, and these are modeled after things like airlines, credit cards, or hotel like loyalty programs, which are very, very successful and very high value. So we want to bring value to the chain. We want to bring value to the users. We want to bring value to the community, and this is one of the ways that we do it. So I'm going to pause there. Any questions that you might think people might have, or if anybody's, I don't know if you're following along in any of the socials, if anybody has questions so far on the app demo.
Yeah, let's check. You can also check Twitch.
Okay.
I don't think we have any questions in the chat yet, not that I see. My question is like, what tokens do you envision getting here? Like, do you want everything here all at once, everything everywhere all at once?
So that's the beauty of the way that we're leveraging chain abstraction, which is the other major technology that we're implementing, is that you'll have access to any major chain and any token on those chains. So if you want to, so all the major tokens will be here, like Bitcoin, Solana, Avalanche, Chain, the EVMs, all those will be here. If there's one that isn't listed and you want it here, it's permissionless, so you'll be able to bring it in, create a liquidity pool, and then go to work. If it's something that
so there's no gigantic centralized exchange listing fees.
And that's another thing that we think is really going to be advantageous as centralized exchange users make their way over, as well as teams who are looking to launch realize that, okay, the idea of spending however much it is to get on a centralized exchange is maybe cost prohibitive for them. They may be looking at platforms like ours to list, and if we can be accessed from any chain and we have a strong community, they will want to list on us. Right. So one of the things that we have kind of like on our roadmap is we're also considering maybe even some sort of like a soft launchpad type of capability where we can actually launch other tokens. Although that's not necessarily like our core competency. So we'd rather kind of like focus on the chain abstraction piece for now, and then enable things like the AI asset management. And we're actually talking soon to some partners about that right now. And then eventually, like I said, we could look into that, like supporting teams who are looking to launch their token, because we want to help other people get into the space. DeFi exists not just as a way for people to launch their own projects, but also as a as an incubator, so to speak, for the other sectors that'll exist in Web3. So whether that be like RWAs, or whether it be healthcare, metaverse, gaming, any of the sectors that are actually going to get built out in Web3 rely on the foundation that's being built by DeFi. It can't exist without DeFi. DeFi is just a part of it, right? So it's almost like the banking system for the rest of Web3. So we're very mindful of that, right? Like that they're very symbiotic.
Got it. I see you have a perpetual tab and a leverage LP. Do you want to go into your strategy there?
Oh yeah. Okay, let's do it. Okay. So yeah, I mean the swap page, you're probably most people are very familiar with this if you're a user of like a Uniswap or Osmosis or Trader Joe, if you're Avalanche, what's the other one on Avalanche? Pangolin, is it? Okay.
Pangolin, yeah, and
Yeah, there you go.
Dexalot. So shout out to they have a central limit order book, omni-chain Dex.
Oh, very nice. Okay. So yeah, so there, that's another reason why we're very excited to have Avalanche hooked up is such a large community and such a great foundation. So we're very excited to get exposure to that community through Landslide. So on our swap page here, we have limit buys and sells, and the great thing about our limit orders is since we all of our stuff is done on chain, these execute on chain. They're not actually done through an order book. Although an order book is likely to be on our roadmap in the future, which we do want to do on chain because we don't want the third party off chain agents doing the order book necessarily in the beginning. Since we recognize that maybe users would prefer everything to be on chain, so there's no centralization risk there. That look for that to be coming in the future. So this is actually a really cool thing. We do this through smart contracts, so COSM WASM. But I'll skip the earn pages and come to perpetuals just because I think this is such an important piece of what we do. Right, this is kind of like essentially one of the major revenue generators for Elys Network. This and Leverage LP.
Yeah, and
And
candidly, I stay entirely out of this. It's like haram in my household. I don't do leverage and I don't do perps, but I'm glad to support people who do.
And I share the same opinion as you. I don't do leverage, but I understand that there's a healthy appetite for it, and I understand there's certain parts of the market that rely on leverage, and so we need to be we need to have a product that's available to them for that. And so this is really what's great. We actually talked about this on the last time we had a community call with our Elys on Elys a few days ago, which is a very like highly skilled professional leverage trader generally will never put more than like 1% of their portfolio at risk, right? If that, they might go much lower than that. And that's really, really important to define your risk, right? They talk about that all the time. Anytime you do something leverage. And then when we start to introduce other things on the Elys platform, like derivatives, so think of it like options trading, or futures contracts, or any of the RWAs are coming. All those things that we may allow to be leverage traded. The important thing is defining your risk. How much are you willing to lose if the trade goes against you? Because you might be right on your thesis, you might be right on the direction, you might be wrong on the magnitude, you might be wrong on the timing, right? And so all of the things have to be right for your trade to be successful. And if you're on leverage, if you're not on leverage, it's great. You can just buy it and hold it for 5 years, and you'll probably be right at some point. that's kind of the difference, right? The difference is the timing aspect is very, very, it bites a lot of people, especially your charge margin interest, on your open position. And so we're very, very mindful of that. We want to be very education focused for people who don't, generally get involved in leverage. We want to make sure that, this is probably something that requires a lot of planning before you dip your toe in, and gain some experience in. So I'm
So
glad you brought
yes,
that up.
that's the not financial advice. None of this is financial advice. Disclaimer.
100%. There's yeah, I always, if you plan to do this stuff, please, please, please seek like proper financial investment advice from a professional.
Seek help.
But we do not provide financial advice or investment advice. What we do is provide you the tools and provide you the place to do those things. So that's, we want to be very clear about that. So
Yep.
with that said, the perpetual page is really going to be something I think our users are very excited about. We just unlocked this last week. We've whitelisted 100 users. We're going to have the full access for our community very shortly here as we go through another couple of upgrades. But we can leverage all the way up to 25 times here. Right now we have Atom USDC.
But after we got that out of the way, let's really roll this out.
yeah, we got to say what it's capable of doing, right? So 25 times is actually, relatively, believe it or not, a low leverage if you are someone who is a leverage trader, right? You could probably leverage 100 or more on other platforms, and that's, for the purpose of testnet, we've limited it to 25, and then we'll be rolling out the increased leverages as we fully flesh out like the UI, the UX, and then get all the bugs taken care of. And then we have things like take profit price. So this is like from the price that you jump in, this is where you'd want to automatically exit. We have a stop loss option. We have limit sells, and then you can open your position here. So once your position is open, it would be displayed here, and you'd be able to check on it anytime you want. Again, while your position is open, you'd be charged margin interest, and you can see the funding rates here, and you can see all that information. So again, very, very important piece of revenue generation, because this is where a lot of people like to be. They're very short term in terms of having those positions open. They usually don't keep them open for a long time. Leverage LP gives you a similar strategy. The difference here is that instead of expressing a view directly on the movement of a token, you're expressing a view on essentially volume in a liquidity pool. So let's say you think the Atom USDC pool is really heating up, and you think there's going to be a lot of tokens exchanged back and forth. You might be able to come in with a leverage LP in here with USDC as collateral. So let's say maybe I want to put 5,000 in as collateral. And then this one, we just limit the leverage up to 5 times, because you really shouldn't be going crazy on leverage in a liquidity pool, right? It's more like it's giving you 5 times the ability to expose yourself kind of to a liquidity pool versus if you were just going to put straight up your funds into that liquidity pool. And then you would have an open position, and then you close it whenever you wanted to take your profits, or same thing if you could get stopped out, or you could be liquidated based on a very rapid movement or something that went against your position. So the great thing about liquidity leverage LP is it's a relatively lower risk, lower reward kind of proposition, right? So when you're going into a liquidity pool, for example, in order for you to be liquidated, the price of a token would probably have to move something like 40% for you to get liquidated. So you have the ability to actually hang out in a leverage LP position for much longer than you would, let's say, in an actual straight up perpetual position. This is kind of important because it just allows you to have a different type of where you want to live on the risk spectrum. Or you could have multiple different risk strategies placed within your portfolio on Elys Network. That's kind of the reason why we have this enabled, is so that you can go from the very, very, very conservative thing of staking USDC on our earn page, all the way up to the maximum 25 times leverage, or it's going to be more like, let's say, 100 or more leverage on the perpetuals. And then this lives just somewhere just shy of that, right, on the leverage LP side. So again, the exciting thing here about this platform is all-in-one DeFi. You can access every chain. You're going to be able to do just about every DeFi function You're going to be able to do it in one place. You're going to be able to log in from a social account. You're going to be able to log in from any device. You're going to be able to do anything you want to do on the go. You're going to have access to some, world-class tools, and it'll all be very easy and simple to understand. You're not going to have to sit there and go through, pages of documentation to figure out how to navigate from screen to screen. In fact, when you look at our dashboard, actually, when you're on the dashboard, you can do everything you want to do directly from the dashboard, right? You could do something like swap, and it just pops up right there on the dashboard. You could, you could go and provide liquidity just from the dashboard. So that's the idea here. Is we really wanted to focus on keeping the user productive and having the ability to navigate without having to, really think about how to get there. Like it's very obvious how to get somewhere.
Awesome, man. Thanks so
Mm.
much for sharing that. Could I ask how your background uh, in the Air Force has influenced your building of Ellis?
That is a great question. No, I appreciate that. It's kind of funny because I think in the Web3 space, I tell people like, most of my experience is military, and people go, well, how does that apply? I mean, that's kind of there's like nothing, there's nothing, similar between the military and crypto. But um, to be honest with you, I think one of the things I've really respected and appreciated about military service and what I've seen, especially in the Air Force, is the Air Force tends to get their hands on the latest technology, and they play with it and they break it all the time, right? And I think that's really cool, right? I mean, we don't give enough appreciation to breaking things, right? And if you're an early adopter, you like to grab something and you like to take it to its limit, and you like to essentially figure out what's wrong with it, figure out what the best parts about it are, and then you want to make it better. So I think my takeaway over my military career is we break a lot of stuff, right? But we also have really, really cool stuff. We know how to make it better, and we know how to take the experiences that we have and bring it back and tell people how to make it better. You're like, hey, like if you really want to make this thing really exceptional, here's how you should do. Here's how you should redesign it. So I think from that perspective, I think it really gave me like a different mindset on innovation, because maybe some users might get frustrated with why something doesn't work correctly, and they might be like, I broke it. I'm done with it. I'm going to walk away from it. I don't want to touch it again. When I break something, I'm like, oh, I broke it. Cool. How else can I break it? So I think it's really important. Like we are early adopters. We're pioneers in this space, like all of us. Every single person has touched a wallet. And so you have the ability to come in and make it better. You are literally the person driving the next step of innovation. And I try to remind the community members that like you can be as involved as you want to be, and you can be the as directive as you want to be to these teams and tell them what you want in the next product. It's up to those teams to listen to you. That's definitely a pain point and a hurdle. And then I would say the other piece of like military service that I think has been really crucial for me is that there is a lot of talent, a lot of great minds out there who I've been able to kind of like be mentored from and rely on their knowledge, and really just gain like such an interesting perspective, especially since these people are from all over the world or all over the country, based on where I serve. And just hearing those different mindsets and like how they approach a problem, or how they you know view like how something should be done, allows me to kind of take that and build off of that over the last 22 years, and then say, okay, like I want to be very receptive to this community that's super global, right? Like I don't, I might be talking to somebody in Indonesia one day, and then the next day I'm talking to somebody in the Netherlands, and they approach a problem in a completely different way. Their DeFi problem is totally different, right? What they are trying to unlock from in their space is totally different. I was just talking to somebody who was like, hey, I have family that has to send their funds over via Western Union every 2 weeks. And it's agonizing. They have to spend so much money and so much time trying to get these funds over. And I'm like, why don't you guys just send it over like one of these low cost chains for like 12 cents or 8 cents or something like that? And he's like, well, how do I do that? You know? And I think that's something that like we forget, that we're solving a real world problem. Like this is actually something that's going to make people's lives significantly better. And then all these people work very, very hard for their money are not going to be throwing it away anymore. That is really important to me. That's something like my heart, like just really aches for that, right? And so regardless of like our level of success, I know that problem is going to get fixed, and that gives me so much optimism on where we're going next. And you think of a company like Western Union, you want to talk about price to earnings, and you talk about talk about market cap. I mean, those companies print money; they make a ton of money off of this type of activity, right? So, anyway, long-winded answer, but it means a lot to me. It's something I'm super passionate about, as I'm sure you are, right? I definitely think you're, this is one of the reasons I think you also got into the space, and as a pioneer, that where you've gone in and really solved a major problem with landslide. I think that you guys are going to be, reaping a reward that's going to be accretive and able to unlock other opportunities for so many other teams out there, which I'm super excited about and thankful for.
Well, that's a very generous response. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Um, we hope so. Yeah, I've been in the space since 2015, and I got red pilled when I read like from Bitcoin to Burning Man and beyond, and I was like, oh, this is the future. This is obviously the future. Um, when in the military, though, you have to follow a ton of orders. What's your own like experience in the startup space where you're the one like on the line?
The community is my boss. I take orders from the community.
Yeah, yeah.
I honestly, I know I know it sounded kind of like jokingly saying that, but honestly, like when we got together and Bill, we kind of got the idea, we were kicking the idea around of starting a project. It really came down to we were all just community members, right? None of us actually had the funds to put a project together, but we were just like, there's a lot of problems that can be solved here. There are hurdles that need to be cleared. There are things that need to be done in order to get to this mass adoption phase that we're now going into, right? And so, how do we do that? And the best thing that we ever did, I think, as founders, is we just listened. We didn't speak as much as we actually listened to the community, and we went and asked people, "What are the pain points? What else are you seeing?" And then did it make sense and did it align with things that we thought were pain points? And a lot of them did, of course. So, literally thousands of different people that we talked to kind of aggregated this whole list of things that we thought we could put together to put into a project. So from the very beginning is we always believed this to be a grassroots effort at Elys Network. And we always started this way in terms of, hey, what do you guys want? In fact, the logo that I'm wearing on my chest right now was actually community born. And this is really cool, right? So we had a contest to be like, hey, whoever wins this contest, we're going to throw some funds at you. The winner gets the pot, and they won. Now the original logo actually is our current Eden logo. So, which is really cool. So that we actually retained that logo because that was like a really important thing for us. We're like, we can't just bury this logo. Like this thing has to be there. And then from there, we kind of iterated on and created this logo. So again, that's just very cosmetic. But like the actual like design pieces of the web app, everything you just saw in that web app is community input. Everything on there is community input. Hey, I want to see a dashboard. Hey, I want an easy way for me to get my funds on. I want to do it in one click. I want to be able to log in easier. I want to have my funds displayed this way. I want to be able to do a swap from the main page. All of that stuff came from them. None of these are my idea, and that's kind of like what I think is really different about Elys Network is we do not claim to be the smartest people in the room, right? Like the founders are not sitting here going, we know more than you, we're better than you. We would never think that way. We are equals, just like the rest of our community. The difference is we have the responsibility of managing investor money. That is what it comes down to. And so we have a very, very, very disciplined approach in how we manage that money. That is, I think, probably the thing that I am most concerned about is every day when I wake up, how are we going to spend this money in the best interest of our community and the best interest of our investors so that we can create a world-class product so that more people can adopt this, can join into the space. Even if it's not Elys Network, how can we get them into Web3? And if we can do that in a disciplined manner, if we can continue to do this in a way where we instill confidence, we continue to maintain credibility, we create trust, right? We are not anon. Everybody on our team is doxxed. Everybody's names are out there. I think we can, at the very least, set a standard for how teams should operate in the space, right? And if we can do that, I think we can also encourage more and more people to come into the space who have been sitting on the sidelines, whether they be like founders, Y Combinator founders, or whether they be, TradFi guys who are sitting at a trading desk at, JP Morgan, and they're like, man, I really, I kind of like what's going on over there. I don't know how to get my foot in the door, but hey, oh, I see these guys were also old school, TradFi guys or like corporate guys that decided to come in and really solve a problem. Okay, I'm going to do it too. So I would say that, like I said, from the taking orders piece, it's always going to be the community that tells us what to do. They are my boss. I will salute them all day long. And so, nothing is more important to me than when they bring their feedback to us and tell us how to make it better.
Fantastic response. Um, I'm curious I don't know how much we can go over a little bit over the hour mark because I have some rabbit hole questions for you, which you can take or leave. But
Love the rabbit hole questions.
great. Here we go. Okay. This is not to do with Elys, but since I have you, and I very, very rarely talk about to military, to the MID, the military, MIC, the military industrial complex. This past year, we had a congressional hearing on UFOs, and you spent more time in the skies than me, so I got to know, are you long or short UFOs?
Oh man, I love this question. Okay, so the opinions that I have are in no way representative of the opinions of the United States
Yes,
Air
a
Force.
disclosure. A disclosure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm also gonna kick me out.
Literally a first disclosure.
No,
I will have you know that the answer, he has already answered the question in how red his face is.
you cracked me up. Okay, so as soon as you said rabbit hole, I'm like, okay, we're doing this.
Here
Okay.
we go.
So,
Okay, so it's in no way, this is in no way a response or official opinion of the U.S. military.
yeah,
I'll let you
yeah.
give your legal disclosure without
Yeah. Okay.
interrupting you.
So disclaimer is done. Disclaimer's out of the way. So I will say this: there's only three possible outcomes, right? In terms of life out there in the universe, it's 0, 1, or many. I'm sure you've probably heard that before, right? So the answer is there's zero life out there, which has already been disproven because there's us, right? So the other all options are 1 or many. So it's either just us or it's many. So I just, from a statistical like feasibility standpoint, err on well, I shouldn't say err, but I lean towards the side of many, just because it would be nearly statistically impossible for there to only be one life form in the entire universe for being how vast it is. So strictly from the mathematical perspective, it's not that I have any evidence. It's not that I have any like inside knowledge, because I don't. But what any pilot can tell you is when we're flying out there at night, we've seen some things that are like, okay, well, this is not from any of the sciences that I took, in my, whether it be grade school all the way up through college. And I think what ended up happening is when those fighter pilots kind of saw that activity and they actually got it on video, that's probably what kind of led to, the government finally being like, we should probably at least try to figure out what's going on, because it's a matter of national security anyway, right? And it's a matter of,
Bingo.
yeah. So you probably want to know what's going on, even if it's not aliens, even if it's like somebody just messing around, or even if it's another country trying to like mess with us or something, right? It could be anything, right? So um, what I do like right now, though, is that the conversation is being had finally in a more open manner. So now people
Exactly.
can bring their observations to the table and be like, "Hey, I saw this. What was it?" So for a very long time, pilots were reporting Starlink satellites as very unusual activity in the sky, because the way that they move doesn't really seem logical, right? It kind of looks like they're moving in a circular orbit, but they're not. They're actually moving. The Starlink satellites are actually moving across the sky, but the way that they're reflecting off the sun makes them look like they're moving in a circle. You're actually just seeing the next satellite that's coming across. And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, wow, I don't know what's going on out there, but that's absolutely nuts. And so those are the types of things.
But it was a steady velocity you saw, right?
Uh,
When you see a
It,
Starlink, it's sort of a steady velocity.
it was what looks unusual about it is the fact that it looks like it's reversing course. So the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
that the way that the light reflects off of the panels on those Starlinks, and it only happens when they're
Sure.
shortly after launch, right? They kind of look like they're it actually looks like it's circling back and then making a racetrack pattern, but it's not, right? It's actually disappearing because it's moving on in its orbit, and the next satellite's doing that, and it looks like it just keeps looks like it's circling back, but it's not. And so things like that, right? That's just one like minor example, but there's a lot of lights that we see that we don't have
By the
answers
way,
about.
our viewer count is just gonna go up through the roof the longer this conversation goes
Yeah,
on.
are we hashtagging you what do they call it? UAS now, right? Unmanned aerial systems or
UAPs,
UAP
UAPs.
UAPs, yeah. Unidentified aerial phenomenon. Yeah.
So just so like also so you're aware, like I don't know I don't know if people actually know this, but like there's like a large overlap between the crypto community and the UFO community. Like early on, for also like Consensus in New York bought and invested in a space mining program. Like literally no joke. You can Google this. Consensus, which is like the main ETH, developer, they invested in a space mining program. And as soon as that happened, like a couple years ago, I was like, this is definitely the future. Like, unless you're holding ETH, like I don't know what you're doing.
it is pretty amazing. I mean, hey, isn't that
Yeah,
why
and
we're
then
doing like a moon base, right? So that we can kind of mine materials off the moon, and then eventually when we get to Mars, we'll be mining materials there. I mean, hey, it's a real deal that's happening.
uh, and then Cardano funded a Harvard professor. This is also not a joke. Okay, this is not a joke. Cardano funded this dude to get on a ship and go out to some ocean and dig up metal balls at the bottom of the ocean that are like foreign material. And now this is like a grant proposal from the Cardano community. This is like
Amazing.
a real thing.
I love it. You know, honestly, everything that's happening, if it's a quest for knowledge, if it's a quest to find out the next thing, I support it, because the worst that's going to happen is it's going to get disproved, right? So
Yep.
this is great because disproving something is almost as important as proving something. You know, depending on your
Look,
perspective.
at this point, the amount of evidence is like now it's flipped the table so that the evidence is like you have to prove to us that this is not right versus that this is, and now that has it's shifted. And
100%.
in terms of I like what you're saying about the multitude piece, and the surest rabbit hole I like to hit, and if you could look this up, my co-founder at Landslide, Hamilton Souther, is a trained shaman, a plant medicine shaman in Peru, and he you could see his work at Blue Morpho Tours. Shout out to Hamilton. Um, his work in plant medicine and plant consciousness, like we're looking for something from another planet, but like there's so many consciousness things with consciousness right here. Like plants obviously have a consciousness, and you could look at the science experiments. There was a book called The Light Eaters published recently about socialisms in plants and how they can plan for the future. So like our assumption is that like we're like alone, and nature is mute, and plants are just to be eaten. But like there's also a sincere possibility that these things actually have a form of consciousness, especially as we relate to AGI, the sort of artificial general intelligence conversation. It's just like it's not AI, it's just I. It's just there's just one eye.
No, I mean, this is absolutely fascinating stuff. I will say, I think what this reminds us of is that like everything is precious, right? Everything is to be like, um, not just I wouldn't say respected, but really appreciated, right? We should appreciate everything that's out there. Yeah, even if it's a plant, right? Like you would never just purposely pull a plant out of the ground just to end its existence, right? You would want to really respect its presence there. And like if you're going to use the plant, right? I totally understand that, like, yes, we are consumers of things and we need them for other things. Then at least respect that plant by using it for some sort of purpose, so that it wasn't in vain type of situation. And so I think this is just kind of in line with just like good decency and good like having a good like appreciation for everything in our world. And I highly respect that, and much respect to your co-founder for that, because there is so much that we don't know and we'll never know. But our quest for knowledge, right? Our thirst to go out and get more, really drives us. It's such an important part. Like if you think about like the human psyche and like what we really crave is we crave what we don't know. We crave the knowledge. We crave like the next thing. Um, I mean, the fact that we want to go and colonize Mars and that we want to go out and figure out how to like go and travel in every direction in space and figure out what's out there. I mean, could you imagine this conversation taking place 100 years ago? People would be like, "Well, how are we even going to get, like, how do we even get out of here?" Like, and so
Yeah.
uh, it's just absolutely
And
fascinating.
and so the but and also like the concept is like for you as a pilot, if you're witnessing natural phenomenon that are like we don't know how to move like that, dude. Like I have no one has any idea how to move like that. Like that is useful to science, right? That is like useful to us to know like if something is moving like that, like is our like maybe our assumptions of like gravity are wrong or like how do they figure that like how do they like when you witness something like that, or when you witness, I mean, you could witness it in a plant medicine space as well, where you talk to something that you didn't think you could talk to. Your assumptions are completely out the window.
Absolutely. And I think that, to kind of look at it from the perspective of, let's say, if we were to be visited by another life form, let's say somebody finally makes their super long trek to come see us and they land on Earth for whatever reason and they're not hostile to us and they're not afraid of us and they actually want to talk to us and we're not afraid of them for some reason. Um, what we'll find out very quickly, and I think most experts agree, is that their technology will blow us out of the water, right?
Oh, for
Because
sure.
if they manage to get here and land and not die, then that means they have some really cool stuff that we can't even comprehend. And that's
Yeah.
really exciting to think about because it makes perfect sense. If they got to us first, they're going to probably be hundreds, if not thousands of years ahead of us in technology. And it's going to be things that we're going to look at and we will have absolutely no way to process it because it's the bridge too far. So it's exactly to your point.
You know what's weird about that is like you take a look if you listen to Michio Kaku, the string theorist, talk about plants. He says that they are quantum computers, right? Like the process of photosynthesis happening at room temperature in a small environment that doesn't explode, that is like a quantum computer, and we don't even know how to replicate that particular quantum computer in our quantum computers. So like
That's
the
incredible.
technology, it's like we're waiting for like this like weird gray bodied thing to show up, but like meanwhile, like our grass is like a quantum computer.
Okay, so can you explain to me what about these plants that like eat insects? Like how does that fit into
Great.
this whole the study, so to speak?
Wait, what about
So
them?
like so how come like so you have plants that kind of photosynthesize, but then you have plants that actually eat insects for their like
Yeah,
energy, right? Like how
yeah.
where did that happen in the evolution of plant life?
Well, here I'm going to tie this to crypto first.
Okay.
The plants that eat flies, they're called Droseras. That's their genus or something. And there's a protocol called Drosera, which creates these fly traps purposefully, as part of their security protocol. so like, so shout out to the Drosera team because they have these really cool. It's like creating honeypots, like to secure your network. Anyway, so that's a really cool process. How does that? That's a great question. Like I it's how do you create predatory plants?
Yeah, how
Um,
does that happen?
I think they're pretty old, and it's same way like the saprophytic fungi, right? Like the fungi that seem to, feed on the dead or or parasitize, like, roots. It's like it's clearly, the intelligence, right? Yeah, Hamilton would say, our shaman, he would say, "You ask the plant."
I love it. I love it. No,
He
this
would
is all fascinating stuff. I mean, but that I think that again, like I love this conversation because we can talk about crypto, we could talk about space, we could talk about underwater life, we could talk about plants, and really a lot of unknowns, a lot of ways to take what we already know and build upon the knowledge, right? I mean, it kind of, I think it's like there's a common theme here, right? Like we do have that thirst for knowledge. We do have that thirst for, trying to like figure out what the next thing is, and we're always wanting to learn. So I don't know. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating conversation.
I think the next thing, and I've said this a lot, but I'm gonna say it again. I think the next big movement in crypto is still meme coins. I think it's the next evolution of capitalism. Like I know your banker friends don't we don't have price to earnings ratios, but like my banker friends are the ones sending me the memes of like the dankest meme coin memes. And I think it's the logical extension of capitalism. Like we and from the regulations, like we couldn't issue securities, we couldn't do it in this country, we can't do it here, we couldn't do it there, we couldn't have a bit license in New York, you can't buy it, you can't sell it. Like, but here is a token that has no value, that has none at all. It has there's no product, there's no team. Like it's brilliant. Like it's just like betting on an idea, and it's like the obvious next stage of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're necessarily wrong, right? I think it's people get excited, right? They follow the herd or they get excited and they want to jump in. My fear of all that, right, is when somebody jumps in and that's what they think crypto is, because memes are such a tiny subset of what crypto is supposed to be, right? It's just one place that you can mess around. But like if that's
They're all
somebody's
memes.
entry, they're obvious.
All of them are meme coins.
Hey, Alice is not a
Bitcoin
meme.
is a Bitcoin is a meme coin.
Oh my God. How dare you? How dare you?
But it's
No,
the
no,
meme of it's
no.
the meme of, limited supply and it's digital gold.
No, I mean you make a great point. Like I certainly find it to be like very intriguing. But I will say this: if somebody comes in and jumps in on this meme idea, and then they get burned by it, this is where I really like feel bad, right? Is because
Yeah,
if
totally.
they're coming in and they have this expectation that this is what the space is all about, and they do get bit because hey, they dumped all their money in this whatever meme coin that their buddy told them about, and they lose all their funds. Guess what? They're not coming back to crypto. They're done, right? They're on the sidelines
Yeah.
forever. So this reminds me of, showing my age here in 2000, right? The internet bubble, right? The dot coms, all these companies that decided to go public with these dot com names, and they were just IPOing left and right. And most of them actually didn't have a product. They maybe had a website, but they didn't actually have a product. So they were the original memes, right? If you think about it, pets.com and all these weird .com companies,
Oh,
they
dude,
just they just issued
I I'm
stock and people were buying them.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna see you and raise you a meme of nation, person, and state. Those are the OG memes.
The OG memes. I like it. But yeah, okay. So even then, you can keep going, right? And so
Yeah.
the people who got in the Nasdaq in like the 99 2000 craze and then watched it all get burned to zero, those people didn't come back. They just thought the stock market was rigged after that, and they just thought that like it was just a place where
But
like they would
where
never.
else can they go? Like, they have
Yeah,
no other option. Were they gonna work a
yeah.
job?
Well, I
What
mean,
are
but
they gonna
the sad part is the people who did stay in were like, "Yeah, okay, that was kind of dumb." Like it was really dumb for people to get all hyped up over things that didn't actually create any real value or any real product or service. But let's stick around and see what this is all about. Let me find out what Amazon.com actually does. And let me find out what Microsoft and Apple do, right? And those guys stuck around, and then the Nasdaq 100 ended up being one of the best performing indexes of our lifetimes. Actually, probably the best performing index of our lifetimes. And the reason I point that out is this is what I think crypto is going to do, right? I think as people continue to get burned by these meme
for
coins, and
sure.
obviously so many people got wrecked in the last bear market, and they're not coming back, right? And more people who jump in on memes are not coming back. But the people that do stick around and go, hey, let me find out what Avalanche does. Let me find out what Solana does. Let me find out what these chains do, et cetera. And then let me find out what Landslide does. And then all of a sudden they're like, wow, okay, there's something viable here. Those guys will be very, very rewarded for their long-term, patience in this space. And so over a 10 to 20-year view, if you're an index investor in the crypto space, which the index will exist like I talked about, you're gonna be rewarded just on a, hey, I stuck around to watch the winners grow. And that's what it comes down to. Do people have the patience for 10 to 20-year growth? That remains to be seen. I certainly do because hey, I don't need it tomorrow, right? I just want my health, right? That's all I really care about. And I want to
Amen.
build a good product, right? But the important thing for us is that we put everything into context. So our memes really the thing that makes crypto special? No, right? Are NFTs the thing that makes crypto special? No, they're just all subsets, right? Is DeFi? DeFi is foundational. It's got to be there, right? Are RWAs going to save crypto? No, they're just a sector of crypto. And so all of these things coming together builds an entire economy. And so we were talking about like powering the Web3 economy. That's exactly it. So memes will exist until the day we die. I can promise you that, because it's the same thing as like, the expectation that penny stocks would no longer exist in the stock market. Oh, they're there and they're being traded like crazy every single day, for my entire lifetime, right? So the fact that like penny stocks, people still trade penny stocks every single day, and people do make money, but most people lose money. That just goes to show you there's an appetite for that speculative type of activity, but it doesn't represent the entire market. So that's where I think we'll shake out. I think we'll shake out in this world where, yeah, meme coins are always going to be this casino style, Vegas style like thing where like people come in and try to play it. Most people get burnt, just like everybody who goes to Vegas. The majority of people who go to Vegas lose money. That's how Vegas makes money, right? But people still go to Vegas; they love it. so yeah, I mean, um, we could probably do hours on this. We probably should. You want to do another show on this one on
Oh,
memes?
dude, I'm all in on meme code. Do you like the slide token? We're sliding coins from one place to another. So we're gonna slide Eden to Avalanche, right? We're slide tech from Avalanche to Cosmos. We're gonna slide cock from Avalanche to Cosmos. It just writes itself, dude. We have to embrace the realities.
I love it.
Yep.
All right.
Because
Well,
because like we have to get people's attention. Like, how are you going to get in this particular world? Like, how do you get someone's attention long enough to like, oh, use a product? Oh, it's an interesting community. Oh, this is an interesting team, and you have like three
yeah, just
seconds of someone in the doom scrolling. Like, how do you just?
yeah. No, you are not wrong. And I think, okay, so I think this will be fun to go back and maybe like do another, maybe 6 months from now, do a little check on it, a little stage check, see how we're
Yeah.
going, and then like another 6 months after that. But seriously, we should do another show on like one of these like kind of fun topics. I think it'd be fun. Maybe get like
Oh,
a panel
dude,
going, get like two more people, and just kind of like share our thoughts. Because I
for
will say,
sure.
because I don't dabble in memes and I don't like know much about that world, right? I kind of want to learn from you guys. I got to be honest.
So, Dogecoin is still around, dude. Shiba Inu, these coins like don't leave.
That,
And like the meme of Bitcoin was, yeah, peer to peer, and we can all run it on our computers, and we could all be a part of the network, right? Like,
mm,
and that meme is like, obviously, it's owning the means of production is the answer.
right.
That's what red pilled all the early Bitcoiners was. It's fixed supply, and why is that important? Well, whatever. Right.
Mhm.
But like it was mostly like early gold bugs and like college students and like weirdos who were just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna run this thing on my computer. Right.
And
That was the
look at them
meme. The
now.
meme was, yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
back for years, we were completely crazy. Like everyone was like, oh, this is really stupid. This is not gonna go anywhere. This is a horrible idea. But like,
Yeah. What is it? Fortune
what's the
fortune
alternative?
favors fortune favors the bold, or fortune favors the brave,
Yeah.
depending on if you want to go with the Matt Damon version. But no, I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
but yeah, everything in the beginning always sounds like it's just too far fetched, just too far of a bridge to cross, right? And this, obviously the story of Apple, right, and the story of Microsoft, story of Nvidia, like everybody has this like story of like, man, these guys were like working out of their garage, like trying to make this thing happen, and they finally figured it out. I think the interesting thing is like, specifically with is Bitcoin is nothing like the white paper said it was going to be. To your point, right? Like,
Exactly.
so the
It's dead.
idea,
It's no longer even the same thing.
the vision died, but now Bitcoin is widely institutionally owned. It's got ETFs, like Bitcoin ETFs everywhere, and then you have options on those ETFs coming because this SEC just approved options trading for at least the BlackRock version, I believe, and they're going to approve
Yeah.
options for the others, which means you're going to have like options trading on something that started off as the thing that was supposed to be the next digital currency, which is not, it's not doing that anymore, right? So like I just think this is absolutely fascinating that the people who took the bet, or not the bet, but they took the leap of faith on Bitcoin we're right, but for the wrong reasons. And
That's right. That's right.
that's a really cool point about like about investing in general. You can be right about an investment. The people who invested in Nvidia were investing in graphics cards. They had
Yeah,
no
totally.
idea that they were investing in AI, right?
Yeah.
Like that came later. So I think for the same reasons that people are in the Web3 space invested, they're going to be pleasantly surprised on what it actually turns out to be, over the next 5, 10, 15 years.
I think yeah, I think it's gonna be stranger than we even can suppose. Like, not only is crypto, like, stranger than we suppose, but it's stranger than we can suppose. And, like, maybe we're just building rails for the AI to trade with other AI.
That
Like,
could certainly happen.
maybe maybe we just we disappear in, like, 100 years, and it's just a bunch of AIs trading with each other.
Well, we'll have to exist because we'll have to repair them somehow because they won't want to
I
repair themselves. They'll need
that
to
that
enslave us so that they don't want to do it themselves.
that's what we think now. That's what the current thinking.
No, I joke, but no, seriously, I really think that yeah, like you're saying, there's going to be things that we haven't even thought about yet that are coming that would be like, wow, this is gives me even more reason to want to like be invested, and so we're very very good at that. Like on the just from the like the human discovery side, we're always good at like trying to like add utility to whatever we're doing, and so self-driving cars, right? We're never like really in anybody's purview, 50 years ago, and here we are with everybody going, "Oh, why isn't my car driving itself yet?" Like people have this like expectation. So I think the where we're going is probably not necessarily as important as like people having the belief that we are going. We're going. We're just going. Like, get in. Let's go. And
No,
that's
yeah,
the
we're
mass
just
adoption piece, right? People will go. People will get in the car and they'll go. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. When should we do this again? Because I know we ran long. When do you
whenever
want to
you
do this
want,
again?
man. I've got Hamilton will join us for
Yeah.
sure, and
Okay.
we can get a host of weirdos. It'll be great.
Okay. I love it, man. Okay, let's do it.
All right,
I can't wait to get the comments from the Ellis community to see what they where they want to take this conversation next. But no, thanks,
great.
Nathan. Honestly, it was a honor, a privilege. I am so thankful for the opportunity to be on with you. So much fun. I always have tons of laughs with you. So like
Great, dude.
anytime you can have me on, I would love to be on for real.
Well, let's give you our light client so you can stand it up on the Ellis chain, and we can start sending test transactions to Avalanche. That's a no-brainer.
Outstanding. Let's do it.
Great.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right.
Nathan.
See you in the skies, sir.
All right. Cheers, everyone. Take care.